Hello, chemists. Even though you'll have the answer key to the ionic compound cutout activity, I wanted to go through a couple examples to help explain how we got these answers. So let's start with copper 1 and phosphate ions. And if you look down below, I made some cutouts. And the copper 1, it asks, in order to match this up, it looks like I have 3 of these copper 1 ions. So I'm going to put a 3 right here. And I have 1 phosphate ion. And that gives the same height. So 1 for the 3 copper ions and the phosphate because the charges balance out. And the total charge of those 3 coppers is going to be +3. And the total charge of the phosphate is, of course, -3. That's one of the ions you need to memorize. And with each of these, I'm going to stick to my color coding and say, well, I need to have 3 copper ions, so Cu with a subscript of 3, and 1 phosphate ion. So that's where I come up with a formula, copper Cu3PO4. No parentheses needed for phosphate because there's only 1 polyatomic ion. And the name is going to be copper Roman numeral 1. And I'll stick with the color coding phosphate. Now, one thing you'll notice is I put in the red ions to these ones over here. If I fill in the blue, if I'm going to go aluminum chloride, it looks like I need 3 of the chloride ions, so I'll go Cl3 here. I just need 1 of the oxide ion, so I'll do Na2O. For iron 2 sulfide, just 1 of each. And you should be using your cutouts for each of these. For potassium sulfate, looks like I just need 1 of the sulfate. Silver nitrate is just going to be a single nitrate polyatomic ion. Copper 2 hydroxide, I'll need parentheses. So 2 separate hydroxide ions connected to each copper. For ammonium carbonate, 2 ammonium ions, and again I need parentheses. Carbonate, just 1 carbon and 3 oxygens, which all together makes a carbonate ion. And then magnesium bromide will be MgBr2. And like we talked about in class, the name is just what you get if you scratch out the and symbol. You're just naming those 2 ions. The last one on this sheet is calcium acetate. If you look at my squares on the right, I'm going to need a single calcium ion to make the heights match up, 2 acetate ions, and those charges are going to be -2 for the 2 acetates, +2 for the calcium, and that gives me Ca parentheses C2H3O2 close parentheses 2. So 2 acetate ions in order to match up with a single calcium. So the second part is going to be acetate. We always write our negative ion second to keep the positive things first. And then this will just be calcium. For the next page, I filled in many of the answers. But if you notice for iron 3 oxide, in order to get the heights to match up, I need 2 of the +3 charged ions, iron ions, and 3 of the -2 charged oxides. So that gives the same height. And you might notice those charges also add up. So for the iron, I end up getting a total of +6. And for the oxides, I get a total of -6. So our charges are always going to add up to the same value. One's just going to be positive for the cations and negative for the anions. So that's going to give us Fe2 O3 to get the balanced chemical formula. The name of this guy is going to be iron 3, which is the name of iron when it has a +3 charge, and the oxygen is turned into the name oxide when it becomes an anion. Just to fill in the rest of these, magnesium phosphate, again just putting the names of the anions. Potassium cyanide and aluminum sulfide. The last thing I want you to do is on these blank ones is to pick two random ions from your cutouts. So I'll pick some random ones for this first one. I'm going to go with ammonium and chromate for this first one. So I'm going to write, stick to the color coding, ammonium. I don't think that was in the very first table. Double check. I want it. We had ammonium carbonate, but not ammonium chromate. So we'll do ammonium as our positive ion. And we always have to choose one positive type and one negative type. And then we'll put an ampersand here. Carbonate. So ammonium with its +1 charge, I'm going to need two of those, NH4, and carbonate has a -2 charge, so it's just CO3 with no parentheses because there's only one carbonate ion. And then the name, again, you just get rid of the and symbol, and it's going to be ammonium carbonate. So we'll go carbonate in blue. We always write the positive ion first. And then you guys will do the last three of these, picking two random ions and following the same system. I hope that helps.